This is the very basic mock-up of the coaming, which is the next project to do. The coaming is this raised part alongside the cockpit that will hold the winches, as you can see, and it also helps keep water out of the cockpit. It is going to be a really interesting project. There's a lot that has to be done as far as reinforcement, winch placement, finding like storage space inside it, and so it's going to be a really interesting project. It's not going to be easy. My name is Matt. Follow along as I turn Duracell, the legendary ocean racing sailboat, into a comfortable cruising home. This is my final draft of the coaming, and I'm pretty happy with it, how it's turned out. I want to just talk about a few of the design decisions that were made here. First, at the aft end, there's this sloped finish back here, and this is where I will put like a little autopilot head, maybe another little bow thruster remote or something like that. But this will be just next to the wheel right here where I'm, sitting, steering the boat, and maybe there'll be just a little display right here for information. Going forward, the winches are evenly kind of dispersed along the coaming. There's about 15 inches between the winches and the ends of the coamings. And then just the clutch that's all the way at the forward end. This will be made of Cusa board, a 1-inch thick Cusa board. It'll be super strong, and will also laminate to the top and bottom to make it a really, really strong part. It's not necessarily for this winch, which as you can see is sunk into the coaming, and it will be through bolted to the deck. It does need to be really strong for the next winch up, which will be bolted to the coaming, so it needs to be really strong, as well as the clutches up forward. These will be taking reefing lines and halyards, and so the base needs to be really strong. And then between the winches there will be little storage compartments, so there'll be one here, this one will be closed where the winch is, this little bulkhead will be gone, there'll be storage here, and then another storage forward of the next winch up. The storage cubbies will also be really great steps for putting your foot in and stepping over the coaming, which will be really nice. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. Everything is mocked up, and so I can basically just take this whole thing apart, use them as templates, and cut it out on the table into the Cusa board. And then the outboard edge of the coaming turned out really cool. It's going to change shape as it goes from a sloped outboard edge to a more vertical outboard edge here. And that just gives us lots of room to walk on the outboard side of the coaming. And then one last thing I wanted to say about the winch. The reason that we sunk it into the coaming was that this winch is really tall up here. And so it's already really tall for me to grind on it, trying to get my chest over top of the winch and grind over it. And anybody smaller than me especially would have a really hard time. And so sinking it into the coaming here will give us lots of power to grind on top of the winch like this. So I think it looks awesome, and it'll be really strong being bolted to the deck right there. So time to start cutting out the parts. I took the mock-up apart and started tracing and cutting out the different parts of the coaming onto the Cusa board. I'm using what's called Blue Water 26. It is a 26-pound per cubic foot foam that is reinforced with both matte and woven roving fiberglass. Coamings can take a lot of load and abuse from all the sailing action that happens around them, so I want this part to be absolutely bulletproof. I usually use a jigsaw and circular saw to cut out all the parts from the templates. Then I laminated the coaming tops. I'm laminating them as though they are regular foam cores like I do with the rest of the parts I build. With these coaming tops, I'm laying down 2 layers of 12-ounce biox on each side over the whole part, and then 2 partial sheets of unidirectional. The extra unidirectional is reinforcement for the utility winch and clutches in the direction the halyards and reef lines will pull. first coaming is coming together. You can see I've drawn a circle here, and this is where the primary winch is going to go through the coaming and be bolted to the deck. But the deck and the coaming are at different levels. And so I'm going to have to build a fairing block underneath here. But first I have to cut the hole in the coaming for the winch to sit in. And so I'm going to make a jig that I can use to cut this out on both sides. I want it to be like a perfect circle so that the winch will sit in there and look really nice when it's sitting inside the coaming. So back here, I made a little just compass for my router, and so I'll cut it out and then we'll cut out the piece on the coaming. Okay, so my template is perfect, so I'm going to roughly cut out the hole with my jigsaw, and then I'll put my template over and use the router to make the hole perfect. So this is the first shape of my fairing block that the winch will sit on top of. And so how I've done it is I've made these wedges that are at the right angle to make the winch level with the top of the coaming. And what I'm going to do is cut 12 of these. It's going to be 12 inches wide. So I'll cut 12 of these and then glue those all together, and then put this 12 by 12 inch block on top of it, and glue all that together, and glue that to the deck, so that will sit underneath the coaming. So the fairing block will be just under the coaming here, so that when we put the winch in, it sits perfectly level with the coaming. I think it looks so cool.
I think it looks cool too.
And it's not perfect. There's a little adjustment that has to be made, but we'll do that later when we finish fitting it to the deck. Okay, so this is the wedge piece that will make the fairing block underneath the winch, and so I'm going to actually glue 12 of these together all in a line. So we have to cut out 24 of them, 12 for each side. My mom is doing a rough cutout of them, and then I have my template here that I screw to the top, and then I use my router with a top bit, or with a top bearing, and use it to trace out, get the final shape. So, and then we're going to do that with all the parts to basically mirror the port side to the starboard side. And I've got a new routing table from Yanni's uncle Andy, so thank you, Andy. Later that day, I glued the wedges onto the block to make the fairing block that the winch will sit on top of. With the tools I have, this was the best way I could come up with to build this fairing block, given how big it is. If I had a very large bandsaw, I could have just cut the wedge out of a large block, but I think that this will work just fine. Finally, after it was done, I cleaned it all up. The first coaming is just screwed together with the fairing block in it, so we're going to fit it on the boat, make sure it fits. Sweet. Cool.
How does it fit?
Fits great. I think it looks great. We still have a lot, so the outboard piece to put on and fit, but the next thing to do is to glue on the fairing blocks and laminate over them. So this fit is to make sure that those fairing blocks, we're going to get them in the right place. As you know by now, before any new parts can be installed, like the coamings, we have to fully prepare the area, which includes sanding and laminating over any of the exposed foam edges left behind from the initial surgery of cutting apart the cockpit. My mom was a huge help by being a sanding champion and sanded through to the fiberglass in the area where the coamings will be glued to the boat. We use Total Boat's 2-to-1 high-performance epoxy for all of our lamination jobs, and as we've mentioned, we can highly recommend it. Follow the link in the comments for a discount on Total Boat products and to help support the channel. So we've got our glue all made and we're ready to glue down the fairing block that the primary winch is going to sit on. So that's this face right here. We're just going to lather it up with glue, put the whole thing down and screw it to the deck, and then we can take the coamings off and finish them in the cockpit or in the garage. Once you get yours in place, like you can look at the wall there.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Looks good.
You good?
Mm-hmm. Perfect. I'll go under and get the screws started, not all the way. And then when I tell you to, you will take out the 4 screws on the side.
Okay.
And then I'll finish them, and that'll just suck it down to the deck real good.
Okay.
Because right now I think these 4 screws are probably keeping it from totally seating against the deck. Okay, Mommy, you can go ahead and take those out. Okay, you can go ahead and take those out.
Okay.
Are emerging from the bowels of Duracell.
That's right. One day we'll have better access.
It's dusty down there.
So they're now going down to the garage.
Yep.
Okay.
Cool. No. So can I give you a lamination project now?
Please do.
Okay.
Yep.
You're a very naughty inspector, and that's why you have your anti-kill bib on.
Okay. I'm nervous about this. This is my solo venture with laminating.
Your first time kind of doing it solo without Matt right by your side?
Yeah.
You got this.
I hope so. He trusts me. I should trust me.
Your hat is quite the look, my love.
The dust is flying in the garage.
Oh, I thought it was a fashion statement.
No,
Oh, wait.
not this time. What?
We get a high five, or is that too cheesy?
Looks like a sailboat.
It's starting to. Doesn't actually look that good right now.
Well, you gotta paint it. Or laminate it first and then paint it.
Yeah. We're really happy with how these coamings are turning out. We have a lot left to do on them, including, they're not even glued together yet, then laminating them to the deck and everything. All that will be done next week, as well as getting back to the benches, building the seat backs, all kinds of stuff. And so there's plenty left to do in the cockpit, but, it's really starting to take shape. We're really happy about it. So we have a few new Patreons to thank this week. Again, if you're interested in joining our Patreon community, you can find us at the Duracell Project on patreon.com. First, thank you to Pekka, who's in Finland. Also, thank you to Matthew, who's in LA. And on behalf of Matthew, we want to say hello to Lay, who is in Ireland. He is rebuilding this 30-foot wooden boat built in 1939, and we just wanted to wish him the best of luck in getting that project done. And again, thank you very much to Matthew. And also thank you to Robert, who was a sailor when he was a teen. He later went to college and was into football, and then went into the military and ended up flying as a pilot in the military for 30 years. And so thank you very much, Robert, for your support. It's interesting that there is a lot of overlap in the sailing and flying communities. So thank you again so much to everyone. It's been so rewarding to have this community around this big project. And so we'll see you next week.